Hi, I'm Mark Cleghorn. Welcome to the Photographer Academy, and today you're going to be going behind the scenes on a fashion shoot for a bridal designer that I've worked for what feels like hundreds of years. Unfortunately, it's going to be her last collection ever, but you'll get an idea from the film, the kind of what we've got to get done. As you'll see, there's basically, our elements are the weather. It's windy, it's rainy, and it's very cold. Combine all those elements with a fashion shoot, nothing's really going to go to plan. Client's chosen a great location, which is this fantastic old lighthouse that's converted into a B&B now. And again, we've got to kind of get use throughout the whole place in certain times of the day to avoid new guests coming through and so on with it. So let's take a look at what happens on a fashion shoot. So when we arrive at the location, the first thing to do is obviously kind of just do that bit of location check-in, seeing where I'm going to kind of choose to take the photographs. It's quite funny that the client has hired a changing room for the day, which is a box van. Again, planning out and kind of making the most out of the day is going to be key. Probably the first hour of any day is spent kind of in makeup before we get the first shot done. For me, I tend to actually kind of drag that first shot done of the day out a little bit, and I don't know why, it's just habit, I think, but I almost feel uncomfortable. I'm kind of trying to get into the rhythm. So just chose a kind of almost a natural light location, but just adding a little bit of pop flash to give us some separation. Wasn't long before the rain kind of took hold, so I had to actually kind of whip the umbrella in and out to actually keep the client and obviously the dress dry as well. For this image, you can see, you know, the kind of old beach hut styling. It's a great location just by itself. I'm not really worried about all the tiles slipping off on the roof. It gives it that little bit of character. Obviously, if I was shooting for the venue itself, that would be a different thing. I'm an avid user of a meter for the ambient and for the flash. But when I'm using just the ambient light in the scene, I just don't take a photograph on the back of the camera and then basically look at it. I take a working exposure to guarantee I'm going to get that image from the first shot to the last shot in that location. So here at the beach hut, again on the front door element, we've got a lovely kind of soft light going in there, but I have got a kicker light just running to the left-hand side. That's another Elinchrom Quadra, just to give a little bit of specularity. That's the sharpness to the light within the photograph, but almost making it invisible, stopping it down at least a stop to kind of give that little bit of edge to the lighting itself. You know, when we're working in these locations, you are going to be limited for the kind of the different viewpoints. You know, in the perfect world, yeah, we'll be able to kind of shoot the same location in 5 or 6 different ways, but with so much clutter around the place, it's always going to be limiting to us. When the wind began to pick up, we had to kind of change plan a little bit. Needed to find somewhere along a kind of the corridor of this kind of little bridge that had no wind at all to allow us to kind of shoot. And there usually is one little spot that you can get away with. It might not be the best spot, but at least I can kind of shoot without the veiling or the dress flying up all over the place. But it is my job to actually bring a little bit of energy into the gown and just not make it look limp. So when we realised that we had to pretty much give up outside, we needed to move inside to some of the bedrooms. Very, very small, of course, it's a lighthouse. Being able to use as much window light as we can. I prefer to use natural light rather than flash if possible. And sometimes if we're having to use flash within the room, it's just picking up the ambient shadow areas more than actually acting as the key light. But giving us a nice, simple, clean image with contrast within the photograph itself. It really is worth specking out the location. As you can see at the top of the lighthouse, I had to go up and have a look anyway, even though I'm frightened of heights. But this kind of shot here, it's kind of a lovely, gentle image, and it's a shame that all the kind of the clouds outside were dull and kind of all rainy, stormy kind of element instead of sunny days. And again, one of the benefits of working with the natural light here was to pretty much bleach out the background, which was looking a little bit more like a storm front. And obviously somebody buying a wedding dress is not really looking for a stormy day. They're looking more of that kind of blue skies, fluffy white clouds and so on. So just minimizing what we can do here for the maximizing of the effect. And whereas I prefer to use a long lens, there's going to be time where I've got to use the wide angle. But again, given the opportunity of a long lens to help drop the background out of focus, so I prefer to use a 70-200 lens. for that kind of shot, using something like f4, f5 to minimize the amount of detail in the background. For this shot though, I've had to actually just use the 24 to 105 and zoom that out to the 105. It's a little bit too much depth of field for me, but again, it's what we've got left to do with. I had no options really. We had a new series of gowns, just done as an entry-level gown, a budget gown in other words, and we had to shoot a whole collection of those in basically about an hour. So the model was fantastic, just being able to whip in and out of the different gowns for maximising the variety, but this was more about a simpler style of photography because, as I said, they're a budget compared to the other designs where they're kind of much higher price, so more effort was laid on for the mainstream gowns compared to the baby blue gowns that we're photographing here. So that's a little bit of a behind the scenes look, and you can see on a pressured day where we've got to shoot a lot of gowns, a lot of variety in small little locations, how we kind of maximise the variety of the look and the feel to the photographs. The image is not only being used on the website and kind of in brochures, but they're also used in advertising, and we've got to make sure, as I said, we really have that maximum variety, especially of the mainstream gowns, because they do sell at quite a high price. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes. See you next time. Bye-bye.